make some abstract art. Abstract art is really fun to make because anybody of any age can do it. Abstract art can be made by using the elements of design, like line, shape, color, and texture to make something that doesn't look like anything we see represented in real life. For this project, all you will need is something to draw and color with and a piece of paper. I will be using Crayola markers to make my abstract art. To start, take your favorite color and make really random lines all over the paper. Your lines can be squiggly or curved or jagged or thick or thin or any way you would like them to be. Just have fun making them. This is how my piece of paper looks after I drew all of my random lines. As you can see, there are really random shapes all over my paper. Let's color in these shapes using any colors that we want. I'm going to keep using my purple marker and color in shapes really randomly with purple. To switch colors. You can switch to any color you want, but I am now going to use blue, and I'm going to keep coloring in some random shapes. Next, I'm going to randomly color in some shapes using pink. Choose one more color to color in the rest of my shapes, and I'm going to use yellow. After you have finished coloring all of your shapes, you've made abstract art. Here is what mine looks like. What does yours look like? That was really fun. Hello, let's draw Bluey. I am going to be using crayons to draw Bluey today, but you can use anything you want. You can use colored pencils, markers, regular pencils, paint. Anything you have to draw or color with, you can use. So let's get started. I will be using a pencil to draw all the outlines and then coloring in Bluey with my crayons. So the first step is to draw a rectangle with kind of rounded corners like this. Then I'm going to draw 2 triangles on the top for Bluey's ears. Next, we will move on to the nose and the snout area, and to do this, we will draw a straight line across, bring it down at a little bit of an angle, and then curve it around for a smile, just like this. Now for the legs, we are going to draw 4 lines. One longer, one shorter, one longer, and one shorter again, just how you see it on the paper. And then we will add the paws. So let's draw Bluey's arm. This one's kind of simple. Just draw 2 lines and then connect them on the bottom with a couple of fingers. Now here is how we do the tail. Draw 2 slightly curved lines and connect them on the end with a little bit of a bumpy, fluffy, poofed tail. And then let's move on to the eyes. So for the first eye that's hidden behind the nose, you're going to draw just a half circle. Then for the other eye, you're going to draw a full oval. And now I'm going to do little kidney bean shaped eyebrows. And here I am just adding the pupils to the eyes. And since I'm here in this area, I'm going to draw a little bit of a upside down rounded triangle for the nose, and then outline where Bluey's muzzle is actually yellow instead of blue. And also I am outlining some of the spots on Bluey's body, like the belly spot and some spots on the back and on Bluey's head, like this. And of course, we are going to add the inside of Bluey's ears as well. And then the socks on her feet and her hands. And that is our Bluey outline. And now we are ready to color her in. So I'm going to pull out all the blue crayons in my crayon box, and I'm also going to pull out a yellow color and a peach color and a black and a white. So here's all the colors that I will have on hand for my Bluey drawing. I am using my crayon called Cerulean for our middle shade of blue, and this will be the blue that we will use to color in Bluey's body. And I am just using this very lightly because I am going to actually layer white on top of this a little later on. So just continue to color in Bluey's body with whichever medium shade of blue you choose out of your crayon box, and lightly color in the spots that you see me coloring in on the video. So here is where I use the white crayon. So I am using this crayon and I'm pressing down pretty hard over the blue that I already colored because it makes my blue more saturated without making it darker. So this step is completely optional to you, but I wanted to do it because it made my colors a little bit more solid. Here I am using a darker shade of blue, and this crayon is just called Blue in my crayon box, and I will be using this crayon to color in the tail and the spots and all the places on Bluey that are a darker shade of blue, which you can follow along with by copying where I color it on my drawing. And now I actually want to make these dark blue spots a little darker, so I am grabbing my crayon called Bluetiful, which is a little bit darker, and just coloring it over all the blue that I already colored. And since this will be 2 layers of crayon, it will make my colors more blended and solid. At this point, we are ready to move on to the belly and the socks. And for this part, I am using blue-green. And again, I am going to color these areas in very, very lightly because we do not want them to be darker than the middle shade. And again, to do this, I am just coloring in a light layer of blue, and then I will go over this again with a layer of white. Now let's color in the nose and the ears. And for this, I will be doing one layer of yellow and one layer of apricot, which is a peachy color. And when I mix these two colors together, it makes sort of a cream color, which is what Bluey's nose and ears look like in the cartoon. It's now time to color in the eyes and the nose and all of the other final details. So I am taking black to color in the pupils, and then I will also be using this black for the nose. But when I get to the nose, I am just going to do a very light layer because I am going to color blue over that. And I'm just leaving a little bit of a highlight on the tip of the nose too. And here I'm just grabbing a random blue and going over my black so that it is kind of a blue-black. It is time to do the outlines. So I am not going to outline the entire thing in black because Bluey is actually outlined in multiple different shades of black and blue. So I am only using the black to outline the eyes and the nose and the smile. Then I will also be using it to outline only the places where the dark blue meets the paper. For the rest of the outlines, I am grabbing my blue-green again, and now I will use this to outline everywhere else that I did not outline yet with black. And that is how we draw Bluey. And if you liked this, remember to subscribe for more. Hello! Let's do an art project based on one of my favorite book illustrations, the rainbow fish. The art in this book is very special because the illustrator used watercolor paints and lots of colors to paint the rainbow fish. And I think it would be very fun if we made our own picture of the rainbow fish using lots of colors too. I will be using watercolor paints to paint my fish, but you can use anything you want to draw or color with, like crayons, markers, or colored pencils. I like to start my drawings with a regular pencil, just in case if I mess up, I can erase it. To start, let's draw a big curved line that kind of looks like the top of half of a circle. Then, let's draw another big curved line on the bottom that kind of looks like the mouth of a happy face. Make sure to leave a little bit of space on the side because later that's where we are going to draw the tail. For my fish's tail, I will be drawing a line going up from the top of the opening and another line going down from the bottom of the opening. Then I will connect the two lines with another slightly curved line to make the shape of the tail. You can make your tail as big or as small as you would like. At this point, my drawing kind of looks like a goldfish cracker, so let's add some details. Next, I will be adding fins to my rainbow fish. I'm going to draw one big long fin at the top and 3 smaller fins on the bottom. After we finish drawing our fins, let's add a mouth to our rainbow fish. I will be drawing lips on my rainbow fish, but you can just use a regular little curved line to draw a simple smile if you want. For now, I'm not going to worry about drawing over the lines that I already drew because I can erase any mistakes later. Now I am going to draw the line that separates the fish's face from its body. I will be drawing kind of a little bit of a bumpy line to make it look like there's scales, but you can just draw a regular curved line if you want. Next, let's draw a circle for the eye with a smaller circle inside for the pupil. I'm going to be adding a couple small details to my fish's face, like a little eyebrow and a little dimple to make my fish look like it's smiling really happy. Now it's time to draw the scales. This can kind of be the hard part, but if we go really slow and take our time with it, it can be really fun. Your scales can be as big or as small as you want them to be. I'm going to draw my scales kind of big. The way I'm going to draw my scales is by drawing long half circles to kind of look like they are overlapping each other. After you're finished drawing all your scales, now you can start coloring. But before I start coloring my picture, I'm going to use a black pen to go over all my lines. You can do this step with me if you want by using any black coloring tool that you have. But if you are using paints like me, just don't use a black marker because the colors may bleed together, which is why I am using a pen. Now that I have finished outlining all my lines with black pen, I'm going to just take an eraser over the drawing really quick just to erase some of the pencil lines that I don't want to see anymore. And now it's time to paint or color. You can use any colors you want, but I am going to start with blue to color in the face and some of the fins and scales. I am going for a similar technique that the real rainbow fish was painted in, where some of the paint colors go outside of the lines on purpose. But if you are using crayons or colored pencils or markers, you might want to stay inside the lines, which is also really fun too. Now that I'm done with the blue, I'm going to switch colors to purple to continue filling in some of the scales and the fins. The next color I'm going to paint with is pink. Some of my colors are blending together since I am coloring outside the lines on purpose, but I really like the way it looks for my rainbow fish drawing. Now I am going to use green to continue coloring in some of the scales. I'm going to leave a couple of the scales blank for the very end, so later I can paint them using a silver paint to make them look shiny and sparkly. If you have silver paint or silver marker or even glitter, you can make shiny silvery scales too. Or if you just want your fish to have really colorful scales with no silver or glitter, that would also be really pretty. Before I finish coloring in the last of the scales, I want to let my paint dry a little bit, so I will be moving on and coloring the lips yellow. Now that some of my paint has dried a little bit, I am going to use my silver paint to color in the rest of the scales. Now that our fishes are all colored in, we can be done now if we want, or we can color in the background. I'm going to color my background blue like water. Just for fun, I'm going to stay away from the edges of my paper and just paint a blue circle around my fish so that the edges of my paper are still white, just because I like the way that looks. Just for a finishing touch, I'm going to use a white paint pen to draw some bubbles. And now we are done and we painted a rainbow fish. This is what mine looks like. What does yours look like? I'm so excited to play with this Play-Doh, you guys, because I have all these really fun colors. We have pink, orange, green, light blue, dark blue, and purple. We also have this little machine right here called the Play-Doh Fun Factory, which will help us make a bunch of really fun shapes. So the first thing I want to do is I really want to make a flower, and I think it's going to be so fun. And I'm going to make the stem of my flower first. And I want to use my Play-Doh Fun Factory to help me make the stem of my flower. So let's get some green out. So I'm going to take a little chunk of my green Play-Doh. I'm going to open up the Fun Factory, and I'm going to put the Play-Doh right into this little compartment here. We're just going to put the Play-Doh in, and before we close it, I'm actually going to put a little slider on the front of my Play-Doh Fun Factory so that it makes a cool shape. When I close it, it's making little tubes of Play-Doh. It's like little spaghetti noodles. Now my flower stems need leaves, and conveniently I have this attachment for my Play-Doh Fun Factory with a little leaf shape on it. And now when I close it, a leaf shape should come out. It's making one really long big leaf shape. And I know it doesn't look like a leaf right now, but it will in a moment after we cut it with our Play-Doh knife. So now we have this weird thing. So what do we do with this? Well, let me just set it down right here, and let me get my Play-Doh knife, and I'm going to make little cuts. I just cut a little leaf, and I'm going to cut a few more leaves. Put them all in a pile, and I'm gonna put them right on my flower stems, like that. So now my flower stems have leaves on them. I'm just squishing them a little bit so that they stay connected. Now my flower stems need flowers on them. All right, there's the middle of one flower. Here's the middle of my second flower. Here's the middle of my third flower. Here's the middle of my fourth flower. And here's the middle of my fifth flower. Now let's make some flower petals. Now I'm gonna put some purple Play-Doh in my Fun Factory. And now when I close it, let's see what happens. It's making 4 long skinny strips of purple Play-Doh. And I can use these as my flower petals. But these would be really long flower petals, so I'm gonna cut them up a little bit and make them shorter. I'm gonna cut them into about 4 pieces each. And now now we have a pile of purple flower petals. So I'm going to put all my flower petals on some of the flowers. This flower is going to have lots of flower petals. Maybe I'll make this one look like an orange rose. I have a bunch of little pieces of flower petals, and I'm going to try to arrange them in a way on my flower to make it look like rose petals. And to do that, I'm going to kind of try to curve them a little bit around the middle of my flower, like this. Squish it down a little bit just so it connects. And I'm going to keep putting on my flower petals in kind of a curved motion and layering them on top of each other like rose petals. See how it's kind of looking a little bit like a rose right now? There's a little bit of purple stuck to this orange Play-Doh, but I think it makes the flower look really pretty. And for the middle of my rose, I'm going to kind of swirl this up a little bit like this and stick it right in the middle. And then I'm going to take the rest of my flower petals and just kind of make them fit in some of the more open spaces of my flower. And put a couple on the outside as well, like this. So now I have an orange rose. I think we should try a blue flower. So I'm going to take my brand new light blue Play-Doh out of the package, and since it's never been used before, I do have to warm it up a little bit. We warm it up by squishing it around and squeezing it all up for about a minute or two, just until it's a little bit softer and easier to work with. So let's take a little bit of our blue Play-Doh and put it in our fun factory. And let's make some more flower petals. Let's lay out these 4 strips. And I think we should fold them in half kind of to make a new shape of a flower petal that we haven't used before. Fold them in half a couple times like this. So it doesn't have to be a perfect shape, but it's kind of unique and it looks really pretty. So let's take another one. Let's fold it in half once and fold it in half another time, and then put it on our flower. Let's take our 4th strip, fold it in half once, fold it in half another time, and put it on our flower. And then with our last strip, let's do the same thing. Fold it in half once, fold it in half twice, and put it on our flower. And now we have a blue flower with 4 big flower petals. Now I think it would be really fun to make a flower that has blue and purple mixed together. Let's make another rose. And I'm going to take some purple in my blue and I'm going to squish it up. I'm not going to mix it together very good. I'm just going to make them squished together, but I'm not going to mix them up. Maybe I'll fold it in half once and squish it back together so that they're connected, but they're not mixed. And now I'm going to put this in my Play-Doh Fun Factory. Let's make another rose. So I'm going to cut these up so some of them are bigger and some of them are smaller. Now let's lay them all around the middle to make a rose. And again, we're just going to curve them around the middle and keep adding curved pieces until it looks like a flower. And now we have a blue and purple rose. So now I'm going to take my pink Play-Doh and I'm going to warm it up since I haven't used it in a while. And then I will put some in my fun factory. And then let's push it and see what comes out. That's so pretty. I'm going to use my Play-Doh knife and cut them into smaller pieces for my flower petals. And just like I did with my purple flower, I am going to layer on the flower petals until it looks like a flower. All my flowers are all done. Thank you so much for learning with me and creating with me. See you next time.